Hi guys, Rachael Cook, Doctor of Audiology at Applied Hearing Solutions in Phoenix, Arizona, and in today's video, I'm going to be telling you 4 ways to hear better at church. Coming up. Around 30% of the United States population regularly attends in-person religious services, which I will refer to generally as church, on at least a monthly basis. With nearly 100 million attendees, it's no surprise that church is a place where people connect with their community, strengthen their connection with a higher power, and who knows, maybe even increase their chances of getting into heaven. A large part of the allure that comes with attending in-person religious services has to do with just how interactive of an experience it can be. From chatting with friends to enjoying songs of worship, learning through sermons, and connecting through prayer. However, each of these elements brings their own unique and often challenging listening environments, ranging from pretty simple to incredibly complex. To be fair, given the broad range of church sizes and acoustics, even those with normal hearing can struggle to hear well. But hearing loss can make this even more difficult, turning what should be a fulfilling experience into a frustrating and defeating one. In fact, I have spoken with dozens of patients who find hearing in church to be such a challenge that they no longer attend their beloved religious services. If you are a member of a church or see it as part of your identity, then you know just how isolating of a decision this can be. So just why is it so hard to hear at church? And what can you do to improve your experience and remain engaged with your religious community? Well, before we dive into the 4 ways that you can hear better at church, please take a moment to give this video a thumbs up to bring videos like these to a wider audience. And while you're at it, take a second to hit that subscribe button with notification bell so that you never miss any one of our newly released videos. We really appreciate it. Now, let's start by reviewing why it can be so challenging to hear well at church. While churches come in all shapes and sizes to welcome all who'd like to join, the problem often becomes how to allow everyone in the building to hear well. So much of the listening experience is dictated by the size and layout of the facility, as well as the acoustics and the audio system. The combination of these factors, which is largely out of our control, will impact distance and reverberation, the 2 things that destroy the volume and clarity of speech. With distance, sound loses energy, which means the volume of speech is lower the further you are from the source. This can be a big issue with smaller churches that do not have sound systems, as the preacher's voice will lose volume as it travels, making it much harder to hear the further back you're seated. With reverberation, sound waves bounce off of hard surfaces and overlap with one another, creating echo and degrading clarity. This is especially true in larger churches with high ceilings and several sound speakers, as the sound is coming from several different directions without much to absorb the reflecting sounds. These factors alone can be challenging enough to overcome, but are then combined with the dynamic nature of church services overall, such as a buzzing crowd settling in for the sermon, loud musical performances, and perhaps ending it all with soft prayer. Put simply, in-person religious services are about as challenging and dynamic of a listening situation as you can get. Even with normal hearing, it can be incredibly difficult to hear what is being said, but hearing loss can make it nearly impossible. With any hearing loss, and especially high-frequency hearing loss that is common with aging and loud noise exposure, consonant sounds that are critical for speech clarity are unable to be heard. If you have a high-frequency hearing loss, it's very likely that you can hear that something is being said, but you just can't quite understand it. Because of this hearing loss, your brain will need to work hard to fill in missing speech information using context clues and visual cues. However, many topics at church are new and novel, meaning you can't always predict what's coming next. Also, different worship leaders have different voices, like male versus female speakers, and those with softer voices versus stronger ones. Additionally, the size of many churches limits your ability to watch the mouth and facial movements of the speaker. Without access to the clarity components of speech, significant cognitive resources are used to fill in the blanks, which can be incredibly exhausting. This can create challenges understanding speech even in quiet and controlled situations, so you can imagine how much more difficult it becomes in a lively and complex setting like church. So what can you do to hear better in church and connect with your community again? First, get hearing aids. Most individuals who have persistent difficulty hearing well in church have hearing loss. Fortunately, the vast majority of hearing losses can be successfully treated with hearing aids. Hearing aids amplify and clarify the sounds that are impacted by your hearing loss, returning missing speech information back up to your brain. If you have a hearing loss, but you're not treating it with hearing aids, you stand no real chance at ever hearing well at church. If you are repeatedly struggling to hear well at church, start by scheduling a comprehensive hearing evaluation with an audiologist. During this visit, the type and severity of your hearing loss will be determined, ultimately leading to a discussion about your treatment options. For many individuals, properly treating their hearing loss through hearing aids results in an incredible improvement in understanding speech in all situations, but especially at church. If you already have hearing aids, but continue to struggle hearing during religious services, then you may need to have your hearing aids programmed better. Although it pains me to say it, nearly half of the patients that I see for treatment consultations already have hearing aids, but they still feel like they're not hearing their absolute best. Upon further investigation of their hearing loss and hearing aid settings, more often than not, their hearing aids are not programmed properly. Although they are outlined in the Audiology Practice Standards Organization guidelines, fewer than 30% of hearing healthcare providers actually follow comprehensive best practices. This is a lengthy series of procedures, including verification measurements and validation outcome assessments, to ensure your hearing aids are programmed in a way to have you hear your very best. One major component of comprehensive best practices is real ear measurement. If you would like to learn more about real ear measurement and why it is so critical when it comes to properly programming your hearing aids, make sure you check out this video by Dr. Cliff that I will have linked in the description. Remember, your hearing aid performance is only as good as the quality of care you receive. So be sure to seek out a high-quality provider who follows comprehensive best practices without you even having to ask. But what if you're certain that you've received high-quality hearing treatment and you're still struggling to hear at church? Then the second thing that you can do to hear better at church is by asking them to install a hearing loop and making sure that you have a telecoil. A telecoil in a hearing aid picks up electromagnetic signals from an induction loop that is installed around the perimeter of your church. A telecoil can pick up the sounds of whoever is speaking into the microphone and send them directly into your hearing aids, making their speech significantly clearer than with just using hearing aid microphones alone. Why? Because the quality of their voice is no longer compromised by distance or reverberation, maintaining the volume and clarity of their speech. Want to hear the difference for yourself? Be sure to check out this example of the difference in sound quality without a telecoil versus the sound quality with a telecoil.
The second lesson, be patient, therefore, beloved, until the coming of the Lord. The farmer waits for the precious crop from the earth, being patient with it until it receives the early and the late rains. You also must be patient. Strengthen your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is near. Beloved, do not grumble against one another, so that you may not be judged. See the judge standing in the doors, as an example of suffering and patience. Beloved, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord.
To get started on your search for a facility with a hearing loop, visit loopfinder.com or keep your eyes peeled for this sign that'll let you know when one is available. If your church does not have a hearing loop, consider getting a group of members together that are struggling to hear and ask church leadership about installing a hearing loop. Hearing loops can serve as some of the best money the church can ever spend to ensure that their members can remain engaged and included. If your church already has an alternative audio system, you can still benefit from the improved sound quality that comes from a telecoil neck loop. Many churches have individual headsets available for their members that struggle to hear that sends the sound from the microphone directly into over-the-ear headphones. But to take advantage of the customization built into your own hearing aids, you can use a telecoil neck loop. A telecoil neck loop can allow you to stream audio from the microphone into your hearing aids, improving sound quality and clarity. But let's say that your church doesn't have a hearing loop or any assistive listening devices and doesn't plan on getting either anytime soon. Or maybe your current hearing aids do not have a telecoil. What happens then? Not a problem, because the third thing that you can do to hear better at church is to use a remote microphone. Remote microphones are wireless accessories worn by or placed near the speaker that sends their voice from the microphone directly into your hearing aids. These accessories come in a variety of styles, including clip-on microphones like the Phonak Partner Mic or Oticon Connect Clip, or table mics that can rest on a podium in front of a speaker, like the Starkey Table Mic or the Phonak Roger Select. These microphones also work to reduce the negative impacts of distance and reverberation by picking up what your preacher is saying and delivering it directly into your hearing aids. While not compatible with all models of hearing aids, be sure to ask your hearing healthcare provider what options are available to you. Just remember that the transmission distance varies from about 15 to 30 feet. So make sure you are seated close enough to remain connected. Again, a remote microphone is not only helpful in church, but can improve speech understanding in restaurants, while driving in the car, and during presentations or conferences. In my opinion, remote microphones are one of the most cost-effective ways to level up your hearing aid performance, not just in church, but in any difficult listening situation, so be sure to check them out. And finally, my fourth future way to hear better at church is the use of low-energy audio Bluetooth with Auracast. Now, I know this sounds complicated, but it's actually very simple. Bluetooth allows for audio signals to be transmitted wirelessly directly into your hearing aids. And low-energy audio Bluetooth is a new form of Bluetooth that allows for broadcast audio called Auracast. Auracast plans to deliver the same benefits of telecoil technology, but without the need for a hearing loop or telecoil-enabled hearing aids. Once available, Auracast transmitters will allow you to hear your preacher's voice directly in your hearing aids, giving you the gift of understanding every word they say. At the time of me recording this video, no churches or public venues have Auracast just yet, but I do believe that eventually this technology will be available anywhere you go. Some hearing aids are already starting to include low-energy audio Bluetooth compatibility in their hearing aids, like the recent launch of Resound Nexia, the first Auracast-ready hearing aid on the market, or the Signia Pure Charge & Go iX, which has the necessary hardware and will only require a future firmware update to become Auracast ready. In conclusion, hearing well at church can be hard even with normal hearing, but can be nearly impossible with hearing loss. Don't let hearing difficulties stop you from connecting with your community and enjoying religious services. If you're struggling to keep up in church, start with a comprehensive hearing evaluation and seek out high-quality hearing treatment. If your performance with hearing aids alone isn't quite where you'd like for it to be, consider the use of a telecoil neck loop, or even a remote microphone system. And finally, brace yourself for the widespread use of Auracast that will revolutionize the way that hearing aid users hear in difficult listening situations. And as always, you can count on all of the technology updates you could ever need from myself and Dr. Cliff Olson here on the Dr. Cliff AUD YouTube channel, so be sure to like and subscribe for more.